Florida.
Gil Culver.
I am present in Englewood, Florida.
Greg Hamlink.
Present, Marcellus, Michigan.
Nikki Miller.
Present, Portage, Michigan.
Cecile Much. Eric Rankin.
Here, Chandler, Arizona.
Mark Weiss.
Here on the campus of Western Michigan University, Kalamazoo, Michigan. Go
And
Broncos.
Jim Woodruff.
Here, Naples, Florida.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we move to the approval of the Aeronautics Board minutes from the January 14th meeting, which were distributed to everyone. Does anyone have any additions or corrections? There being none, the minutes stand approved as published. And with that, we move to public comment. Any public person may now address the board on a non-agenda item. Or if they want something removed from the consent agenda, they can say so. Please limit comments to 4 minutes and give us your name and address. Any public comment? Thank you. There being none, we move on to the financial report.
Okay, in your packet today is the January 2021 financial report. January marks just over 8% of the way through the year, and operating revenues came in at just over 4%, which is expected given the amount of revenues that we receive and record after the fact. Operating expenses are at 6.9% of the approved budget before depreciation. No surprises here. We did have our annual rollover of inventory and some annual costs that hit in January for the year. Couple notes on closing out the 2020 financials. I did submit a second 2020 CARES billing to the FAA of about $1.3 million. This billing brings our cash back up to just under where it was at the start of the pandemic, which is kind of the ceiling we need to stay under as we move through this. The total grant was 19.1 million. So that leaves us a balance on the grant of just over $16 million grant to date. We do have a second round of funding under CARES 2 or KBCIA. That's about $1.6 million. That funding is out there, but we're still waiting on a lot of guidance from the FAA. It looks like there's going to be some different restrictions on this funding than the first round. So that is out there. Any questions?
Well, I think I'd like to just commend the staff. When you look at it, we've got half of the budgeted amount in revenues, but we managed to cut expenses by 20%, which I think is admirable. And I guess what we can say is keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Quick comment, Amanda. This is for the January expenses. Do we do a lot of the front loading of the insurance premiums in January like we normally do?
100% of our insurance premiums come out in January every year.
Okay, so January was normally, prior to COVID and all these other things, heavier on expenses because of that preloading. So and that took place again this year, obviously?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Good comment. Anything else on the financial report? Okay, we'll move on to items for consideration, and you'll notice that there's a consent agenda item on the agenda today. And so what since I don't think that's ever happened in the past, I want to take a couple minutes and kind of explain exactly what that is, what it means, and how we're going to employ it in the future. And fundamentally, what a consent agenda item is an item that the management looks at and thinks of as being relatively routine, or let's just call it non-needle moving, not something that's going to affect the budget or make any sort of big change. And things that might fall into that category that we've had on the agenda numerous times might be the extension of a contract. So you execute a contract with a vendor for 2 years or 3 years, and then you have 2 or 3 renewals. So the idea is that if that renewal comes up and management has no issue with it, it can be put on the consent agenda. And then what happens is that that's distributed to everyone. So you have time to look at it. And if you have some cause for wanting that removed so that it can be discussed, you can say so. And that's what the chair will be asking before we move into that list of items. And at that point in time, we can put it out, essentially moving it to the non-consent items and begin discussion. And that would give everyone a chance to comment on that. Idea being that this would help to make us more efficient and keep the process moving. I think it would be particularly valuable when we're doing these Zoom meetings, which are obviously just take a little more time. So does anybody have any question on that so far? Okay, so then what would happen at this stage? We're going to be moving into the consent agenda items. So the question that's asked then is, does anyone want that removed from the consent agenda? Okay, then the procedure says that if that's the case, it stands approved, and then we can move on. Do you think I got that right, Craig?
Yeah, that's typically how it is, any of the board members have the item to remove. If there's multiple items, they can remove any of them from the consent agenda. And if there's no removal, then the consent agenda, everyone just votes to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. So that being said, we'll call for the vote to approve the consent agenda.
Aye.
Craig, do we need a motion and a
Yeah,
support
we need a
first?
motion in a second.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Support.
Okay, Artema,
Yes.
Busker,
Yes.
Culver,
Yes.
Hamling,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Rankin,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Woodruff.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. I will point out that the information I got said that this allows the board to approve all these items together without discussion or individual motions. So that leads you to the point of saying one motion takes care of all of them if there were multiple.
That's right.
Okay. All right, so then we'll move on to non-consent agenda items. The first being Norfolk Southern Preliminary Engineering. And Eric?
Yes, sir. Good morning. I have a request to approve and authorize the board chair to sign a preliminary engineering agreement with Norfolk Southern Railroad to review the current submitted design proposal and some future design proposals as well to relocate the rail line required to extend runway 1735. So we've had some movement recently dealing with Norfolk Southern and the in regards to the rail line that needs to be moved, which is it's a good thing. It's hard to come by, but we found a good contact within the company to help us out with some agreements. So so far, Mead Hunt, in partnership with Watco Railroad, has completed 30% design work to relocate the railroad. So NSR, or Norfolk Southern, is the owner of the rail line in this area, and their approval must be granted prior to moving forward with the eventual construction and future design of the new configuration. NSR has hired a consultant to review the submitted design for eventual approval of the configuration, is requesting reimbursement for the consulting services from the airport, which would be eventually paid for with federal funds through AIP. You'll notice a bunch of X's where the price tag should be. That was due to, I didn't have the number in hand yet from Norfolk Southern. I have it now. It is $41,053, which does include estimates for a 30% design review, which is where we're at right now, plus a 60% design review, a 90% design review, and a final construction document review, and approval from their end. So this one agreement should take us all the way into eventual construction of the railroad, as well as the runway extension. And I believe that's all, but I'm willing to entertain any questions if there are any.
I have one, Eric. Where's the rail line going, and is it on whose property is it moving to?
I'll try to give the Reader's Digest. It's moving out of our runway protection zone, essentially. So it's a straight line right now. It's kind of flag turning off and away from that to get outside of
it'll kind of do a bell shape,
yeah,
off of there, and I believe it goes into Manhummel's property a little bit.
It goes into Manhummel. I don't think it goes into City of Portage at all. They'll cut into a little bit of our property there at the southeast corner where that Christmas tree farm was. And then eventually come back into across the street, across
Romance.
Thank you. And then down into Pfizer's property eventually.
Okay. I just asked this question as we're spending money doing design work. I just want to make sure, and I'm sure you've already done it, but have that lined up with Von Hummel and all the others to make sure once we pay to have it designed that it's going to be feasible and practical to actually put it on their property.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've been in discussion with all of the concerned landowners with the adjustment of the rail line. They've all seen it and approved it to this point, besides the railroad, who obviously, so NSR is obviously they're the owner of it, so they need to review it and approve. Watco Railroad, which helped us complete the design, Mead Hunt hired them as a sub-consultant. They're actually the operator of the rail line, so their engineering guys kind of put the design together. So pretty confident in the new configuration, and all the interested parties seem to be agreeable to it at this point.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Eric, congratulations on your research and finding the right person to deal with the railroad. I've done a lot of dealings with the railroad, having been in the coal business, and on property, it's practically impossible, but good for you.
I had a lot of help, absolutely, and it was literal years of hard work from Mead Hunt's perspective. So they've done a great job for us.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, Ardema,
Yes.
Buskirk,
Yes.
Culver,
Yes,
Hamling,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Rankin,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Woodruff.
Yes.
motion carries. And we'll move on to item 2, which is airport rates and charges. Amanda?
This brief is a request to eliminate the $20 per employee per year parking credential charge and increase the CITA sterile badges from $60 to $65. We've run into quite a few administrative issues from the airlines, the airport, and a few others in instituting the employee parking charge. And this keeps the revenue coming in and makes the administrative side of everything much easier for everybody involved.
Okay, I guess the first question I had at least is how does a $5 per badge charge equal out to a $20 per employee fee?
The number of CITA sterile badges that we have far outnumber the people parking in the lot. This badge I looked at increasing the fee of because everybody that's parking in the lot that are paying the employee parking fees have this type of a badge.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Do they pay to get the badge up front, or is that a fee if they lose the badge?
This is a fee up front to get the badge, to get the parking credential.
And with the change in fee, Amanda, is it something that like it was easier because this process is already in place?
Mm-hmm. This process is in place, and we have the mechanism in place to bill out for parking or for badges. We don't have that mechanism for parking, and we were trying to run all of the parking credentialing through the parking lot management, and they don't really have the capability to bill, and it was becoming very cumbersome. The airlines and some other employers wanted to pay for their employee parking, but don't have the ability anymore to use their credit cards to do so. So we were just running into issue after issue of trying to figure out a system.
The change makes it easier for especially our airline partners to help pay for their parking for their employees if it's just part of the credentialing badge that they're already paying for there. Whereas if they're having to pay for the parking, they were running up to administrative issues with the parking fee.
That's great, I think. So as a trade-off, we should reinstitute the 30-minute free parking.
Somehow I knew that was coming up.
I just heard Kristen fall off her chair.
So for anybody that has a CITA badge, that then gives them access to parking. And then when you exit, that's what you would show the parking folks. Is that correct?
That's a really good question. What we'll do now is for the terminal tenant employees to get their annual parking credential, they'll show their badge.
Okay. I've got a CITA badge, for example, but I'm not at the terminal. So that's why I asked.
Yep. Right.
Okay, Chair will entertain a motion.
Move approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote?
Ardema,
Yes.
Buskirk,
yes,
Culver,
Yes.
Hamlink,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Rankin,
Yes.
Weiss,
yes,
Woodruff.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item is approval of a service order with Tower Pinkster. Eric?
Yes, sir. So we're getting Tower Pinkster right to work here. We just signed the agreement at the previous board meeting in January. So I've got a couple items for approval today. The first being a service order 01 to provide a study of the mechanical, electrical, and structural components of the existing ARF building. So taking into consideration the modifications that we need to make to the ARF building to accommodate the new fire rescue vehicle that's coming the next year or so. We thought this is a kind of an opportune moment to make further building improvements to the ARF building. It was built around 1980, so it's good 40 years old now. There's just a number of improvements that could be done to it. So Tower Pinkster is performing or will perform a complete study of the existing conditions of the building, including facilities ventilation, HVAC and electrical systems, as well as the overall architectural of the building to create an operations and maintenance checklist with items and their associated necessary repairs or estimated life expectancy. So they'll perform the study and eventually we will move forward with their recommendations should we see fit, and make that building a little bit more livable and hopefully, well, we'll extend the useful life of it. So the proposed study is based on time and materials at normal billing rates in the amount of $14,500. And this will be funded by the CARES money that we received. So.
Oh, Eric, if I can add to your description,
Yeah.
when we met with the FAA to talk about how it would be potential uses of our CARES money in late January, one of the things we had on our list was the work that we need to do for the doors for the station. And then they asked if there's anything else that needs to be done with the station, and we said we're not entirely sure. We haven't done any assessments. And they asked us to do a full assessment rather than them giving permission for the money for doors and then us coming back in 2 years and saying, well, we need a building system and then we need this and we need this. They asked us to do a full study first and then make one ask for the CARES money for procedurally. So that's what we're doing with this is doing an assessment, find out what we need, how old the systems are, what might need to be replaced, and then we can ask them once for any of the money that needs to be, rather than going in there every 6 months and saying, we need this for the next 4 years.
If I remember correctly, wasn't there thoughts or a movement afoot at one time to move that building? I mean, essentially tear it down and build a new one?
There was a study done in 2013, and I don't know what predicated it, but I've seen and read the study, to do a potential combined ARF SRE building over next to the tower. And we're looking, that's still on the table there, but we need to make an assessment of all the things that need to be done. And that's you'll hear more of that when Eric gets into the next section as well.
And that was my question as well. And it sounds like we're planning for it, but we're spending money to determine if the building can be retrofitted. And I guess the other piece to factor in is the location of it, does it make sense to move it? Does it benefit the airport to move it? And is the land that it's on currently earmarked for something else? If we were to expand the terminal or anything else, does it sit in the way of any other projects that the airport has
That's right.
planned?
If there's a higher and better use for that land. That study didn't get into the location of it. It was more of, I'll call it a little bit of a cost engineering plan and study to tell about how much it would cost for both a I'll call it joint use station with maintenance and the ARF.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just hope we're, as a organization, and I know you are, but just long range planning as when we start putting money into the building. This, you said this one's been here for 40 years, so whatever decision we make is probably a multiple decade decision. So as we look out 20, 30 years, what
Absolutely.
could be the needs for that land?
Yeah, absolutely. And then that's why we want to find out what we have, and then what we what some of the possibilities are. Because when we had the initial conversation on our capital improvement program, one of these, that estimate came in 2013 at about $10 million. So just, say normal cost inflation and construction costs, we might be looking at $12 million now. So when we put that in our CIP, the FAA asked us to get a lot more information before we started coming asking for $12 million for a new building. And we have to kind of justify the facilities that we have and justify kind of some of the future activity as well to plan for that. So that's why you'll see this one. Eric's, the next one is the SRE component as well.
Great, thank you.
Gil, it's
Yeah.
Dave. I think part of the thoughts years back was there was discussion of closing down one cross runway because the FAA wasn't going to fund it anymore. Is that correct, Greg? Now they're still funding patching and sealing and stuff, but if they were going to indeed close that down, the thought was that would be turned into a taxiway, and to relocate the ARF building across with the maintenance building on the center of the airport would be better response time. It would be a lot of better things. And then they were thought about what we would use the old ARF building for. And that was thinking at the time, something like a ready return lot and stuff for the rental cars, excuse me. Yeah.
Okay.
But it doesn't sound like this move would take that off the table down the road.
No, I think it's an investment of finding. So we're kind of in this I'll call it this weird area that I when we were meeting with the FAA, I kind of told them, because they asked us the question. We were talking specifically about the SRE maintenance building, and they said, but you haven't done any of the justifications. And I said to them on the phone, I said, listen, a year ago, this was all a pipe dream. This was not even money that we had. And then in December, we find out that we have to give you our entire list. And then we put all this together. And so we have to now do some justifications at their request to put this together. So if this were, I'll say, a normal process, we would have done a number of these long-range plannings, a little bit of justifications ahead of time. Now we're being asked by the FAA to do them in a short period of time. And we kind of need to, because we have to spend this money within 4 years or give it back. And I don't necessarily want to give it back. So there's a couple of procedural hoops that we have to do ahead of time to do that. And one of them includes seeing what the existing buildings are capable of, and whether it's cost beneficial to just do some modifications to update them, or to potentially do a combined facility, or maybe not even combined facility, new facilities for each or both of them.
All right. Well, Dave, I appreciate your comments. Your memory is better than mine. And I knew that it was reviewed and looked at. And so I think I take some comfort in that, in this whole timeline discussion. And at least it has been looked at. and reasonable care taken to decide that the building was adequate and was not in a position that it was going to detrimentally influence the operation of the airport, et cetera, et cetera. So we would hope that at least for the foreseeable future, investing in it to improve it, to make it more serviceable is not an impractical use of capital funds.
Mhm.
Does that sound right to you, Dave?
Yes, yep. Yeah, I think what I was talking about is what Craig mentioned, that if they shut the runway down, the big pipe dream was to relocate everything over there central and do everything all at once, but things obviously have changed quite a bit since then.
Okay, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion, we have support. Any further discussion? We'll call for the roll call vote.
Ardema,
Yes.
Buskirk,
Yes.
Culver,
Yes.
Hamlink,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Rankin,
Yes.
Weiss,
He's on mute.
Yes.
Woodruff.
Yes.
Motion carries. Eric, you're still on tab here. Let's talk about service order 02.
Yes, sir. So extending the conversation we just had, Tower Pinkster will provide also a similar study review of the existing condition of the snow removal equipment building, as well as provide a conceptual design for additions to accommodate the limited space we have out there. The concept design will focus on the siting, scope, size, and narrative for building engineering. A site plan, a floor plan, exterior elevations, and interior build-out plan for the addition and any renovation to the existing building will be developed. Scope of work includes structural engineering, architecture, interior design, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and plumbing engineering. And the proposed design based on time materials will amount to $22,000. So everything an extension of just everything we just spoke of. If we know, taking a complete look at all of our facilities right now, looking at the ARF building, we know that the SRE building is also aging and old, existing conditions. It's also not adequate for the storage abilities we need. So taking everything into consideration, doing the due diligence of doing a study of the existing conditions and possible extension and improvements of that building is the ultimate goal of this.
Any discussion? I think we've talked that through pretty well based on the previous one, so I will entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any further discussion? There being none, the motion is approved.
I'll call roll on that. Ardema,
Yes.
Buskirk,
Yes.
Culver,
Yes.
Hamlink,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Rankin,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Woodruff.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next item is MDOT for ARF training.
This request comes before you every year. This is a grant from MDOT to support financially the ARF training needs of the airport. Like previous years, this is for up to $2,000 in assistance if needed. And the use of this grant varies year by year based on what we need to do with our ARF staff in any given year.
Okay, any questions or comments?
Quick question, Amanda, for the grant that we received last year, were we able to use those funds? Was training still happening with COVID procedures?
I believe last year we used a little bit of the funds, but not, I don't believe quite up to the $2,000.
Okay. And then like, is it something that we have to pay that back, or we just didn't submit for it, or do we roll it over?
We can't roll it over, but they do offer a new $2,000 grant every year. The years that we've utilized the most out of that grant are the years where we have the big live drills.
Mhm.
We've been looking in the last year at previous years to make sure that we are utilizing this grant as fully as possible. Sometimes the contractor will do training, and that's just included in our annual contract with them. So we've been trying to parcel that out a little bit to make sure that we're taking full advantage of the grant that we can.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, do we have a motion for approval?
I'll approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second, roll call vote.
Ardema,
Yes.
Buskirk,
Yes.
Culver,
Yes,
Hamling,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Rankin,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Woodruff.
Yes.
motion carries. And next is minimum annual guarantee waiver request.
This request is similar to one that we brought you in 2020. This is to waive the minimum annual guarantees for airport concessionaires for calendar year 2021. This affects the car rental companies and the restaurants. So what this does is allows the airport to continue to collect our share of concessions from these companies without having the floor that's typically in the agreement. Rental cars have been doing really well. They've been exceeding the minimum annual guarantee fairly regularly since last summer. The restaurant's in a little bit of a different boat. So what this does is takes a little bit of the pressure off of these concessionaires to make those minimum payments to the airport every month. But we will still collect revenue based on their actual sales.
Amanda, the restaurant, I assume their sales are probably down a similar percentage to what the passenger numbers are.
Maybe even a little bit more. They're still operating with a little bit of a limited menu because of the depressed numbers, and the store is open in that. One of the items from them that we receive a higher concession on is alcohol, and their sales aren't. They don't have a lot of people hanging around the bar area, so that's happening. I should also point out the CARES 2 or CRISA grant. There is specific language in there for concessionaires, and airports around the country are anxiously awaiting what exactly the parameters will be on that. So there's a possibility that we could use the MAG abatement in that grant.
We're not sure of that yet.
We're not, no, we've received the application forms, but no specific guidance on what that language means.
I think having the restaurant and the car rental too, obviously, but the restaurant in the terminal on the air side is a critical piece of the services that we offer. So I think we need to do what we can to help sustain them and sustain that operation. It's obviously a really challenging time for them.
Amanda, do you have any kind of estimate or guesstimate on, what this might actually amount to in dollars? Worst case even.
I can tell you, because we receive the concessions reports every month. The restaurant is, they're generating about a quarter of what their monthly guarantee amount is in the contract.
What's the annual mag on that, Amanda?
24,000, it's $2,000 a month.
That would be the maximum we would lose on that is 24,000.
Okay. Well, Kurt, I agree with your remarks, and I think probably if we were to lose that particular operator, I would think it's a pretty steep curve to get another one in there again, based on the concept that they're on the secure side. You're going to have to go through all kinds of paperwork, testing, blah, blah, blah. So I'd say this is money well spent. Is there any other comments? Do we have a motion for approval?
I'll approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? We'll call to the roll call vote.
Artema,
Yes.
Buskirk,
Yes.
Culver,
Yes.
Hamlink,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Rankin,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Woodruff.
Yes.
Motion carries. And last item, elemental media contract addendum.
Sure. Thank you, Gil. And I apologize that this came late. I got I lost my word there, but I got the updated addendum from them earlier in the week, and I wanted to make sure we could get it in this board meeting rather than waiting until the May meeting. So, but the specific action is to amend the existing contract that we have already in place with Elemental Media to include the management of ASIO's social media. The reason for that is our social media it's been the primary means for connecting with our airport's target customers. Historically, this has been the responsibility of our airport intern. With the impact of COVID, we don't have an intern right now. We hope to have one back as soon as we can have people in the office, but right now we don't have any interns because there's nobody here to manage them. Communication for the airport via social media lags our neighboring airports. If you see on the board brief, we have 3,305 total, I'll call them likes, followers, whatever term you want to use, compared to 28,000 for Grand Rapids. So yeah, they're 7 times the size of us in that regard. So I asked Elemental Media to put together a proposal to manage the airport's social media, and their proposal came back at $395 a month, which is $4,740 annually. And that includes the one-time creation of a posting guide to assist staff with social media guidelines, which to update what we have. We actually have social media guidelines in place, but this is to update it and also give directions. I'll admit, I have no idea how some of this stuff works, and I've been trying to manage it, and I haven't been doing a good job, to be honest, trying to stay on top of social media. So they're willing to do it for the price. I think that's a reasonable price. Otherwise, I would not have brought it to the board. And with that, I'm looking for basically board approval to allow the addendum for the contract for social media for Elemental.
I would move
approval.
I second.
Support.
Sorry, I have a quick question to go into it a little more. With the information that we have, it doesn't include like how many times are they posting a week? Like what channels are they posting on? Has that been
Sure.
discussed, or
The short
how
answer
does that break
to
down?
that's, yeah, I have that information, and they're at least going to be in there four times a week on each component. We've got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn as that's the key ones for me. Quite honestly, I don't know if there's any other ones. I mean, I know my daughter's on Snapchat, but I don't even know how that works. So if there's others that are out there, will evolve as such. But yeah, they did give at least a minimum of what that would be, and that would be at least 4 postings a week in each of the medias, and then some other things to help boost and recruit more followers as well.
Yeah, no, that's really good if it's 4 per platform. That's a fantastic rate.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really important piece of connecting with the community now and our potential passengers utilizing the airport. I think it was at one point kind of a fringe experimental type of marketing for businesses and organizations like the airport, but that time has long since come and gone, and now it's mainstream. And you can see it with our neighbors up in Grand Rapids, the impact that they have from a connection standpoint with their community and with their followers. So it seems like the rate's reasonable, and it's certainly worthy of spending those resources to make those connections. I think we'll have it. It'll be well worth the dollars.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, obviously it seems it's important to keep up with the times, and this pretty well demonstrates that maybe we were a little too focused on the old goofs like me that still use a telephone to try to find out what's going on. And the majority of business people in particular of the younger generations and so on, this is how they do it. So critical for us to reach out and make sure we're getting that market, filling the space.
Right. And the average age of a Facebook user is not as young as you think it is. It's in the upper 30s, I think now, which is, it might even be, that's the latest stats that I saw from over a year ago. It might even be higher than that. So.
Very good. Any further discussion? I will entertain a motion for approval.
I'll approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, the motion stands approved.
I'll call roll on that, Gil.
Arma? Yep.
Arma,
Yes.
Buskirk,
Yes.
Culver,
Yes.
Hamling,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Rankin,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Woodruff.
Yes.
Okay, now the motion is approved. Sorry. Thanks for keeping me on track here.
Hey, Gil.
Yeah.
Can I go back to the Norfolk Southern agreement? There's a component of that we forgot to include that Eric found out this morning, is we need Inc.'s signature on the agreement to move it forward. And given your locale and Jim's locale, I'd like to offer up to the board to re-vote on that with the motion to have Greg sign it, since he's on the executive committee and in Michigan. So if we can just go back and revisit that vote, I don't know procedurally if we just have to reread it or just seek approval with that change.
Okay.
Probably just make another motion to that effect.
Okay, so yeah, I'll offer up a motion to approve the Norfolk Southern agreement as stated originally, or as stated in the board brief, with the addition of Greg with the addition, instead of Gil's signature, the board chair signature, it'll be the Greg's signature.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Roll call vote, please.
Hardeman,
Yes.
Elskirk,
Yes.
Culver,
Yes.
Hamlink,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Rankin,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Woodruff.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us through all of the consent agenda items. Next is unfinished business. Does anyone have anything? All right, in that case, I do. You all completed Craig's annual review documents and submitted them, and we thank you for your input. Those have been consolidated into a final form, and the executive committee has met with Craig to discuss that, and we worked our way through it just to make sure that we were all on the same page, and if there was any things that we thought might lead us to different pathways, so on and so forth. A well-meant discussion. And then we also determined in the course of that discussion that the county has frozen all of the rate scales in the salaried positions for this year. In addition to that, they have frozen the idea of moving anybody to a different step. So it was mutually agreed that since we believe the county will be revisiting that issue later in the year and maybe unfreezing one or both of those items, that the plan is we'll meet again with Craig to discuss that. In the meantime, it's mutually agreed that we'll continue with the employment agreement that's in place at the terms that are described in it. Does that cover that pretty well, Craig?
I think so, yes.
Okay, Jim
Yes.
and Greg.
That is correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure everybody was up to speed on that, and we just don't want to get out of step with what's going on at county level. So we'll bring that up again as soon as possible and get it back to the board. Any new business? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item 10, the director's report.
All right, thank you, Gil. This may be our last Zoom meeting, but I'm finally learning how to use some of the technology of Zoom. And so I'm going to share my screen here because nobody really wants to see and hear me talk at the same time. So, so I'm just going to do something a little different, just kind of give a director's report. Everyone see this just fine? Excellent. Okay. So I've got a couple things I just wanted to bring up. First of all, thank you to the board and the executive committee for the feedback on the annual review. This has been an odd year, but a fun year. As I told the executive committee, I've been blessed with a board that wants to do something, and the strategic plan certainly helps guide us, but also blessed with a staff that's motivated and wants to do good things as well. So that really is it makes a work environment fun, even if we're in a COVID work environment. It's still been fun. So with that, I wanted to just kind of touch on the strategy a little bit. Just kind of we met February 23rd with Peter on a quarterly review, just to keep us in check, see how we're doing. And he ran us through the ringer in kind of the same way he did with us before, but it was really good. So this is a review of our strategic framework. I won't go through that, you know that. But we went through successes and barriers. There were a number of things we said we were going to get done in the first quarter immediately. Updating marketing plan, and, developing an incentive program. What else did we have in there? Ground transportation. So we have a number of things that we're working on, and there's things that I would say are really in the background that a lot of people can't necessarily see. They're not tangible. It's not external. But he was very pleased with what we're doing, and in fact, we were kind of pessimistic going into the meeting, but he was uplifting and said, "You guys have done a lot more than you give yourself credit for." He pointed out some successes. First, the board buy-in. I thought that was great. The progress we've made on some of the tasks, and also the sharing of the plan with staff. I told him, I said, the board's really all into this, to the point that we created a cargo committee that's led by Eric, and Gil had appointed some people there, and there's more to come on that. And so he was very impressed with that, and it just shows that we're working toward alignment and getting in the right area there. So we talked about one of the things is we shared this with staff, but it's very hard to get a sense of engagement during COVID, because I couldn't be there in person to do it. So we did it over Zoom and conference call with folks. So we'll probably roll out better and updated information to staff and other key stakeholders as we move along into the process a little bit. And then we identified one of the biggest barriers so far is, we were very optimistic in our schedule, I guess, on some of the things. So we found early on that staff workload, because a lot of the work is being done by Amanda, Eric, and myself, is just becomes a little problematic. We've been doing our best to keep up with it, and we've done some things, but we had to push a couple things back by a couple months or so on some things. The discussion was, maybe there's some opportunity to utilize some consultants, for example, for the cargo component. Instead of us writing up the justification and this, we're going to utilize a consultant for that, and the opportunity to delegate some of those to other members. So I just kind of wanted to give a quick update on some of that stuff that he met with us. We also are fleshing out more metrics to show performance on this. And as we get those a little more mature internally, we'll start sharing that with the board as well. And that overlaps into, kind of goes back to the assessment. And a lot of my goals for 2021 are goals that are specifically tied to this strategy. With that, I wanted to switch to some airport operations. The president came here. We were proud to host the president. People asked me, are you really busy with that? And I kind of give them two answers. I myself wasn't necessarily busy, except for being really nervous that I'm hosting the president. But our staff was busy. And so kudos to our airport operations team, and that's operations, that's maintenance, Secret Service come in, and that's when you find out how much authority you have, is when the president comes. You don't have as much as you think, and they come in and they ask nicely for things, and you give them that service in return. So our folks did a great job. Thankfully, the weather cooperated, that we didn't have any snow, and the airfield was in great shape. It was just a fantastic day to host. As you can see, for those of us who are aviation folks, it was a 757 Air Force One, the 747. I was thankful for that, because I didn't want to donate a lot of signs and have our maintenance team out there replacing signs for the 747. The maintenance team, again, let me go back one here. They are doing a great job. Snow, we're below normal in snow, but they're keeping up with it. It's really good, and I'm proud that they're able to keep up with all of that. I did want to touch on a couple airport business. I don't have a slide for it, just quite honestly, because it's just a table of all the work that Amanda, Eric, and I are doing Amanda's been spending a lot of this first quarter getting financials from last year and then getting ready stuff ready for the audit. I just want to give you guys a heads up. May is going to be a busy board meeting, and they won't be consent agenda type items. They're going to be things like bringing, we're looking at things of how to get our advertising done in the airport. So we've got RFQs that are out there. Just a number of things that are going to be hitting the street and be ready for you in May. You'll see more detail in my board updates on a regular basis as we approach May. But I just wanted to give you that heads up. We're doing a lot of work behind the scenes. And then finally, I just kind of wanted to go through some air service and marketing stuff. I hope you can see the slide here. It's got some January stats. We don't have February stats yet because it's still early in March from the airlines. But we're still down year over year. In this top one, you can see we're down, what is that, 74, 72% for the month from January 2020 to January 21, and we're down 69 from January 2019. Again, January is our slowest month of the year anyway, but it was predicated on being even a little bit slower. But we're very happy American returned. They returned on the 5th of January. So we're back at full throttle with the number of airlines back to normal there, but still seating capacity is limited. The good news is, and Nikki might be able to give any little more insight on this on a daily basis, but there's a lot of optimism with people getting their COVID shots and their vaccinations, and people are talking about an uptick in travel. The downside, that's leisure travel mostly. Business travel is still lagging, at least in future booking type stuff. So we hope that will increase. I'm optimistic that it will. We'll see where it goes. And then I just wanted the bottom one here, the ASIO monthly boarding trends. That red line is 2020. And I just wanted to share that with you so you can see how we compared to the 5 prior years. That June of 2019, that's when the runway was down. That's why you see that sharp V in 2019. But that's that 2020 was just horrible. The good news is that graph is a similar graph to every other airport in the land. If you want to take a little bit of silver lining out of that. So that's it for my report. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer. Oh, I take that back. I don't have a slide for it, but we started our ad campaign on February 1st, and that's the the commercial that I sent out to you guys. That initial one, which the intake was to be kind of a little more subdued and just let people know we're still here and we're ready for you when you're at. I just have some interesting statistics from that because we went a different direction. This is an all digital campaign, which you'll see if you are on some of the digital medias that are out there. But the month of February, we had 46,607 people watch that. And we know that they watched it because, well, they're tracking everything we do with these phones and computers. So we know that 46,607 people watched the full ad, an average of 1.55 times during the month of February. So it was seen out there. And right now with that initial blitz, this is again a new strategy, new campaign that Elemental is leading us through. But we kind of went broad, and we're going to be focusing this in as we get more data to hit some of the people. But when we say broad, it really the target right now is anybody 25 and older that are identified as travelers out there. And we did a broad initial geographic reach to include Berry County, Eaton County, Kalamazoo, Calhoun, Van Buren, Cass, St. Joe, Allegan, and Brant. And they've actually found out where the top watchers are right now, and they'll start narrowing that in so we can focus in on the individuals. And we found that the top channels that people are watching this on are on HGTV, TNT, and Hallmark, which explains why I haven't seen it. because I watch none of those, but I'm not buying any tickets. So, but it's really good information that we're out there. It's that we're able to see exactly who's watching this, and not only that, it's so 1984-ish when you get into some of this stuff, but we can see based on their IP addresses of what they have, they can geofence it to the airport and also our website to see where they're hitting, when they're going into the website. And we've got some minor statistics on that. They're going to flesh them out more. So it'll be very interesting information as we get a little more detailed in it. But again, it's fascinating to hear the information. Now I'm done.
Okay, any questions, comments?
I have a couple, Gil, if I can. Craig, I know we talked about this a while ago. The TV monitors in the terminal that were previously playing the Weather Channel and CNN, just kind of general news feeds running through those screens, the last I was in the terminal, they were not operating. Is that still the case?
I have to go in and look at that. I don't have a good answer for you.
And I ask because it already feels pretty quiet when you're in there, because there's usually only one flight going out at a time unless you're on the early morning block. But having a little bit of energy coming from the TV screens can't hurt. So just a little bit of that extra background noise, white noise, might make it a little more appealing in the terminal itself.
Sure. I'll look at that as soon as we get it done with the meeting.
Okay, that'd be great. I was at Delta, and so what is that, gate 3?
Mm-hmm.
There's screens in that area, and that was in the middle of February. I was there, and they weren't running at that time. I was on an early morning flight. That was number one. And then number two, I know we talked about this before, but the leisure flights, we know there's some traffic picking up with leisure.
Mm-hmm.
We know that there are some airlines doing some creative things outside of their normal operations as it relates to leisure flights. I've noticed even Southwest picking up destinations that would be a year ago or a year and a month ago would have been out of the picture. I saw Eugene, Oregon, Bellingham, Washington, and a handful of others that have popped back up for them that are pretty comparable to our market size. And just want to keep everybody thinking about that again, of what options are out there for us to attract that leisure crowd, because it's what's growing right now, and we have to go after what's growing and what's viable.
Right.
So I know you're focused on it, and just wanted to discuss it or just mention it with the board involved as well.
No, they're good points, and just watching some of the moves that Southwest is making I won't call them head scratchers. I think they're being aggressive and putting themselves in an aggressive posture as we come out of COVID to beat back some of the challengers. So it's interesting.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I mean, they all have planes and staff that they need to utilize, so they're going to put them on, I would think, in places where they think there's traffic. And if the only traffic is places flying to Florida and leisure spots similar to Florida, then that's what they're going to do. And I think we have a great opportunity to go after that. We know we had good success with it back in the direct air days, and it seems like there's a lot of comparable markets with success that we can model after as well.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Craig, just a question. We had Optimed moved in February. Just wanted to see if there's any feedback on that and usage of that service being available in the terminal.
I have not seen any numbers of how many people have been in there. When we walk through, I'll occasionally see somebody in there coming in, getting a shot. But I don't know if they're passengers or just somebody coming in. They were limited initially because they didn't have the supplies to do the quick 15-minute. I guess it's the antibody one. There's some medical term, but I'll just call it the antibody 15-minute test. And I don't know if that's still the case. But they are trying to ramp up because they see and are talking to people in the community, or at least getting feedback in the community from businesses who want to be ready to travel and have those kind of tests available. So hopefully that's good news from a business travel standpoint.
Thank you.
Craig?
Yes, Eric.
Yeah, in our efforts to attract new business, new destinations, like Kurt mentioning the leisure travelers, there's a new airline starting called Breeze Airlines.
Yep.
And most of their service, from what I'm hearing in the initial phase, is going to be east of the Rockies. So I don't know. They have not started flying yet, but it might be a good idea to maybe get in touch with them and see if we could fit into their network, because basically they're doing point to point with underserved markets and secondary airports. And I think we might be a good fit for them to get them into Kalamazoo. I
100% agree with you on that. They just got their certificate approved yesterday by DOT. I'm fortunate. I have the old acquaintance that I'm friends with, have become friends with, that we've been in conversations, friendly conversations, not official conversations, but I'm keeping an eye on what they're doing, and he keeps an eye on where I'm at. So
okay. Yeah.
At least we know a name there. So
good. Yeah. If we can get in on that ground floor, it might, expand.
Yeah, and the aircraft they're using, I think, fit our market well.
They do. Yes, they do.
Question, do they own their own aircraft?
I don't know if anybody owns their own aircraft in the airline world.
The other question would be, do they employ pilots?
Dave.
Well, David.
Dave.
I think you know where I'm going with this. So.
Yeah, Dave. It started by David Nealman, who started JetBlue, and he also started Azul Airlines down in Brazil. So
Okay.
he's been pretty successful in the airlines that he has started.
Okay.
Yeah, he's legitimate. Yeah.
And I'll say too, I think there's more positive than negative that can come from the new service, even if Direct Air obviously had a meltdown at the end, but we also had four years of full flights running in and out of the airport multiple days a week. So we got 4 good years, and we had 1-2 weeks of really kind of bad PR related to the airline. Wasn't the airport's fault, but I just overall, and Eric, I agree. Craig and I talked about Breeze a while back when they were first kind of starting to discuss what they might do, and I think it'd be a great fit for Kalamazoo. And like you said, if we can get in on the ground floor, we can potentially keep it away from some of our competition too, and we can offer them a pretty unique market that doesn't have competition.
Correct. Yep.
So.
Okay, we'll move on to member time. Kurt?
Sure. Just appreciate the continued effort to keep things moving at the airport. And also, I thought the presidential visit was great. It was exciting to see that in Kalamazoo. A lot of times when we get visits from the president or others, they end up at other airports and then making their way to Kalamazoo on the ground. So it's great to have them land at Kalamazoo and have the airport be a part of that visit. So nice work.
Thanks.
Dave?
Yeah, I just echo what Kurt just said about President flying in. I'm glad he chose the 757. I don't know if he's going to use it all the time, but I do know there was a lot of Facebook chatter on, well, he can't fly into Kalamazoo and because the runway's not big enough and everything else. And I tried to straighten my neighbors out on that, and they got straightened out when the C-17 flew over. So I just had a question. Where was Marine One housed?
I believe in one of the Duncan hangars. Greg, you might
Is that
know.
where it was?
You.
Yeah, that was in hangar 2 at Duncan. So pretty good job getting a picture of that, because they were willing
That's cool.
to not allow you to take pictures when we were there.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Right,
The pictures were great. And Craig sent me some pictures down here when they flew in, and I appreciate that too. So other than that, that's all I got.
Greg?
No comment here, Gil. Thank you.
Nikki?
As Craig was talking about, so leisure market is really coming back strong. Last week, I know TSA numbers were way up throughout the country. Received an email specifically for my Disney clients that, like, pretty much the week before and the week of Easter, Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios are sold out because of capacity. They have 2 other parks, and one of them is sold out most days as well. So leisure people are ready to travel. I've seen it in my business where numbers are way up. Not that it means much, but I've done more in sales in 2021 than I did all of 2020. And, those destinations close to home are coming back, mostly, domestic. Florida, I don't know how, hopefully everyone that's in Florida right now, you guys just stay where you are, because like things are so sold out for end of March, beginning of April. Not a lot of availability. So people are back and ready to travel. Hawaii is big as well. And the international destinations that are offering complimentary COVID tests for return and then complimentary stays if you do test positive, those ones are popular too in Mexico and Caribbean. So leisure people, they've been told, for over a year now that they can't go anywhere and they want to go. There's a lot of pent up demand, not only from those that are getting the vaccination, but from those that have already had COVID. And even those that haven't, that are just, feeling comfortable and safe to travel. So there's a lot of pent up demand, and it's going to explode here very soon.
Eric?
Oh, yeah, I agree. Demand is increasing, and just by the fact I have been called back to training.
Hooray!
So, actually, I'm headed to Denver Saturday. I'll be in Denver until April, the mid part of April, training on a new airplane. So, Gil, this is all going to be gone.
Oh, dear. All right, Mark?
Other than I received a call from an old friend of mine in New York and was mentioning that thought it was impressive that President Biden came into Kalamazoo. He kept seeing the name Kalamazoo. And again, Craig, you and your staff did a wonderful job. No incidents, no problems, and made Kalamazoo look good. There was that, like David mentioned, the debate is whether the president could even fly into Kalamazoo. So the fact that it showed up Kalamazoo on all the news reports, again, I think that's great publicity for us. So congratulations to you and your people. And that's all.
Jim?
No, I don't have anything, Gil. I just have a comment for Eric, though. There's a big snowstorm coming into Denver. I hope you're able to get in and out.
I just got an email that they're giving me positive space transportation to Denver. So I don't know how long it's going to take to get there, but I'll get there eventually.
Well, good luck
Does
to one and all.
that mean a bus, Eric?
Oops, sorry.
Hey, well, it could be in some cases.
All right, then we are adjourned. Thank you for attending and taking part.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and see you in May. Bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.